Good morning, everyone. A little bit of complication here. Okay. Morning, everyone. Welcome to Unity Radiant Light. It's Sunday, April 16th, and we're starting a new series, Hell in the Hallway, Light at the Door, written by Reverend Ellen Davenport, a Unity minister. And today we're talking about welcome to the hallway. And honored to be here with you. I'm Reverend Cherie Ruffo. This is a book that came out in the last decade, and I've really found so many great quotes in it, but great ideas in it, and I refer back to it again and again and again. Because what Reverend Ellen's talking about is that we all go through hell in the hallway. I mean, do you have something going on in your life right now that's a big change for you? Or maybe you've been through some major changes, or you know someone who's going through changes. So I know you've probably heard the term when one door closes, another one will open. But it can be hell in the hallway in the meantime. And that's what this is about. And sometimes in New Thought too, we tend to gloss over things or try to do a spiritual bypass. And that's hard. And we can't do that. We need to experience each part of our lives. So what we're talking about over the next few weeks is about being in the hallway, but knowing, as Joe said in the opening prayer, knowing that there's a light. And I don't know about you, but I felt like the last few years, and maybe even a little more, in the world has felt like one big hallway. Anybody else felt like that? There's a lot of change going on, and it can be really uncomfortable. So, what's a hallway, and how do you know you're in it? Because your life has changed, and you don't know what's coming next, and that can be really uncomfortable for us. I know I plan out my weeks and my days, and I have my little calendar that I fill out. I write in the morning. I have certain hours dedicated to certain things and appointments, and I'm really about trying to be organized in my schedule, which is another thing for control. So you can imagine when that hell, in the hallway, shows its face, I get pretty uncomfortable. Does this sound familiar to anyone else? Especially as we went through a pandemic, we didn't know what was coming next. We didn't know. I mean, even when I think back to Unity Radiant Light in January 2020, we were so excited because we finished our strategic plan. We knew, and we met with the community, and we had the next 3 years planned out, and we knew where we were going, right? And then March 2020 brought a pandemic, and everything shifted at that point. And we were very blessed because we had been working with Zoom, so we were able to. We never missed a Sunday. We never missed a class unless we had technical problems with Zoom. So we were able to move into that, but everything changed. And even the way most of us, if we were working, the way we worked, we started working from home. We started. I went from, as I've mentioned before, I was in my car all the time with my business, putting 22 to 25,000 miles a year in my car to now I put about 10,000. And you know what? A lot of these things, as hard as it was coming through something like that, a lot of these things are good. For me, I'm at home more. I get to enjoy my home, my animal, my pets, and be outside and watch it. That first year in 2020. I was amazed to watch the hummingbirds in my one tree and how they would feed, and they would went through spring and all the different things that happened. Those are things that I had lived here for 7 years at that point. I'd never even noticed because I was too busy running. So I've been a spiritual leader, for 13 years now, and what I've noticed when we have topics like this, or topics about the dark night of the soul, is that they seem to hit a mark in the core with us, because these are all things that we experience, and we've all been through them. And if we haven't, then God bless you. You've had a great life so far. But we come here and we do have these times in our lives. happen because we change. And one of the things that after I do a talk like this, I usually hear from people and they'll say, "I'm so glad you talked about that because it's a thing, and you've affirmed that it's a thing." And also, they also realize that they're not alone in this. These are experiences. Our experiences may not be exactly the same, but they're experiences that we all go through. And most people are really, feel assured when they know that that light at the end of the tunnel is not an oncoming train. That things are, most likely going to get better. And they say, well, what about in the case where someone has a terminal illness? Well, we believe that we're eternal beings. So when we leave here, we're just transitioning into our more natural form. And this journey doesn't even pause for a second. We're having this journey together. We're experiencing these things together. We're in this earthly classroom, learning a lot, and especially in the last few years, we see things happening in the world and change is coming so quickly that I think we're all a bit uncomfortable. So there's going to be three parts of the hallway that I'm going to be talking about over 3 Sundays. And then Reverend Kathleen and Reverend Claudia will be talking about different aspects of hell in the hallway. So today is Welcome to the Hallway. We're going to be talking about what put you there in the hallway. And what do we do while we're in the hallway? We'll be talking about that next time. And the third time, we'll be talking about how do we get out of the hallway? Please, right? So getting out of the hallway is the last because it shouldn't be your first decision. A lot of bad decisions are made when people panic while they're in the hallway. This is something that we want it to be an internal process. We want to grow spiritually. So we want to try to make the best decisions possible. So today we're going to start at the beginning. We're going to we're going to talk about what put you in the hallway. It could have been a death of a loved one, maybe a job lost, adjusting to life after loss, divorce, losing a job, going bankrupt can certainly put you in the hallway. Becoming a caregiver, as many of us have experienced with parents as they get older, is a hallway. And sometimes the door will slam suddenly in our lives. It's so fast. It's just in an instant. You get that phone call with the terrible news or a scary diagnosis, and everything changes. And a lot of times we know at that point we're never going to go back to the normal. Just like we did with the pandemic, is everybody would assume, well, when are we going to go back to normal? We never did. There was a new normal. Life's changed after that. We've adjusted and we're adjusting. We're still adjusting. We'll probably be adjusting for a while. And sometimes as we're entering the hallway, it happens really slowly. Um, the author Ellen Davenport says it's like the door creaking. And that can happen when we have a child that's getting ready to go to college in a couple of years, or moving out and or moving away. And also retirement is a creaky door because it's something that you know that's coming, but it happens slowly as it approaches, and then all of a sudden it's there, and you're in the hallway because you're trying to figure out your life. Sometimes a hallway is chosen by us. It might be you're deciding to take a new job or move to a new city. Or multiple changes happen all at once. You may be accepting a new job in a new city, but it tends to happen, and we know it's still a hallway. We're still uncomfortable at points during it, but it's still a hallway because it's such great change. I chose a hallway when or I should say, I got the calling to become a unity minister. There was a lot of change in my life during that time, but what happened with all that change really led me to get that calling to move on to that path to becoming a unity minister. It was in 2005 to 2010, it was really a long hallway for me. In 2005, um, I my first husband, Bill, told me he didn't want to be married anymore, and this was a couple weeks before our 19th wedding anniversary. So I'd been with him for 23 years. That was a huge change, and the hallway was going to be. And I was immediately in that hallway as I was very uncomfortable because I had to go from we to me, and start figuring out new things on my own. I also in 2006 founded my company, which is another hallway because it's something so new. And I was still going through the divorce, so I had a lot of things added to that hallway. And then in two, 2000 and, 2008, I really started getting the calling to be a unity minister. And then also the recession hit that year. So I had a new company. I was still working in not-for-profit. The not-for-profit failed during the recession. So a lot of things were changing, and I was having economic hardships from that. And also had this calling of, wow, and I need to found a church in 2009 in Rhode Island, Unity Radiant Light. So a lot of things were happening, and the hallway was building. And then in 2010, I lost my home in June in the financial crisis. And then um, I had a 14-year-old dog who passed away in late June. And then in August 31st, I had a 4-year-old sheepdog that passed away um, from cancer. And this was all so unexpected. I was really brought to my knees. And I like to say I had to come to Jesus with Jesus, like, okay, wait a minute, guys. This is too much for me. This is a lot of change. This hallway hasn't ended. I'm exhausted. So what do I do? And, I even may have pulled out the I founded a church card. I did found a church to get some points. But I was still in that hallway and I wasn't sure. But at that point in my life, I completely surrendered. It felt like everything had been ripped from me. But what I didn't realize was that that tearing down was about to open up to a whole new life, a life which I'm very happy in, and a life where I met Dan in October, and we have great marriage. I consider myself so lucky to have this partner on this journey. My company's done great. We're growing. I have this beautiful spiritual family in Unity Radiant Light, and we're sharing this journey together to all these new adventures that have happened. And it was a long hallway, but I did see that shift. But that shift, it wasn't that shift. A lot of things happened because of what was happening externally around me, but it wasn't until I went inside. I went to the internal and really held and thought about and prayed and meditated on what was happening and maybe yelled a little bit and was upset, absolutely, um, because of what had happened. But when I let it go, as I surrendered it, this new amazing life began to form. It didn't take long. And I realized it was my resistance that was making it was really was the reason why this took so long to get to that point, because I was trying to go back to normal. I had in my mind's eye what my life should look like. And as it was changing, I really fought it. And what I didn't realize is that this amazing life was on the other side. So, yes, welcome to the hallway. We enter the hallways. But when we can look at what's happening in that hallway, just breathe into it, settle into it, and know that it's going to be okay. And the hallway, well, there will be a light at the new door. If we don't rush, we won't open the wrong door. Sometimes we may go down a journey that felt like a wrong door, but it may be part of getting us to where we're going. So when you're in the hallway, just breathe. Breathe and just try to feel calm and use the spiritual tools of meditation and prayer that we have. But also know that everybody has the hallway experiences. You don't have to be alone in this. You can be supported. People around you can be great supports through this. And whatever transition you're going through will come to an end. So it's up to you. And it hurts. Life may never be the same. And those hurts, if we can, move through the pain. One of the things we do as New Thought students a lot is try to bypass the pain and say, well, no, it's because of my thinking. I've got stinking thinking. Well, the stinking thinking wasn't why that person that you love so much passed away. This is something part of your journey. This is something that you're going to go through. And if you can breathe into it and walk through it, then you're not going to have to go to therapy in 10 years and tell your therapist about what happened because you haven't gotten over it because you shoved it down. And then it became a subconscious thought. So if we can be present, that's the most important thing to do. Be present and breathe through it. And this is where you're going to grow spiritually. I know for me, I have spiritual growth all the time. But when I look back to those 5 years and my life basically was being torn down to be rebuilt, I was experiencing spiritual growth. And it doesn't have to be painful. I used to tell myself that, which may be why it was all painful. But it doesn't, because the growth can come in many different ways. And it may be tempting for you to take that first doorway out, but just take a stop. Just breathe and say, is this the right doorway for me? Or do I need to walk through this a little longer? So what are you gonna do when you're there? Getting out is usually not the first thing to do, like we just talked about. And when I look back and say, well, why did I have to go through those years? Well, the truth is, I wasn't really happy in my marriage. I mean, he was a great person. I never have anything negative to say about him, but we weren't right for each other. We weren't thriving in the marriage. We were friends, and it was the right thing for us to do. We both have spouse. We both got remarried. We're happy, and we're with the right partners. But what happened for me is the fear came out. The fear of, oh my gosh, how am I going to survive? How am I going to get through this? How am I going to be alone? Will I have enough money? I met my ex-husband when I was 18 and I got married when I was 21. So I'd really never spent time on my own. What I realize now later on is that time between 2005 and 2010 when I met Dan was an amazing growth period for me, just in the fact that I learned who I am. And one thing about our marriage is that we don't lose ourselves in it. We know who we are. We're very self-aware. We came into this relationship with an awareness of something else, an awareness of God in our lives, spirit. And it's a very different situation. So what is the difference between where I am now? And what's the difference when you go through your hallway? Are you trying to control your life? All the external things. I kept trying to control all the external things. Me saying, I had people that say to me, well, there's no such thing as a recession because it's just people's, it's um, it's just illusion. Well, it may be in the grand scheme of things, but when you're experiencing that and it's all around you, it's an experience you're walking through. And I don't think we should put that under the carpet because we're here to have certain experiences. But everything that I've experienced has taught me one thing, is that if I can go to the internal and still myself, be in the moment, it goes much smoother. I think that one of the things that I see for people in their hallways is grief is a really tough thing because there's a lot of labels put on grief. And they say, okay, so you should grieve for 1 year or whatever it is, and then you should have walked through all your different steps and be done. And you know what? Every person's journey is different. Nobody should tell you how to grieve. That's your journey. And we should be there to support it. And if you're experiencing different things, and there's a lot of different kinds of grief going on, then just experience it and know that there's no right way to grieve or no wrong way because this is your journey. And the thing to remember is to feel when you're in that, whether it's grief or whatever those feelings to have, to experience that. Not to wallow, not to get stuck. It's funny, Reverend Kathleen said to me when we were talking about hell in the hallway, um, she reminded me of a 12-step thought is that, you know, there's the hallway, but don't decorate it, which means don't Pull up a chair, start putting furniture in it, and just sit in for the long haul. Get stuck. We don't want to decorate it with something we want to feel and move through, but not to be stuck in it. Because you want to be ready when that door's open. You don't want to be trying to have to move furniture through it. Or say, wow, you know what? I kind of like it here. I've gotten used to it. Not that you like it, but you're used to it. So be prepared to walk through this transition. We're all going to be in the hallway at times, more times coming up, and know that we can support each other through it. Something got you in the hallway. So now what do you do? Well, we're going to be talking about that um, at the next hallway talk. But Reverend Claudia is going to be talking about some helpful aspects next week about moving through this with using prayer and some of the tools that we have. And I always like to look at quotes as I preparing for a talk. And this is one that I kind of stopped at because I love Maya Angelou. She's one of my favorite authors. I loved her spirit, the fact that she was a Unity Truth student, and then I saw this and I said, wow, you're free? You're only free when you realize you belong no place. You belong every place, no place at all. I went, yeah, what? What does that mean? How can that relate to what we're talking about here? And it sounded to me like a lot of nothing at first. Because how can this set us free? And what it really sounded like to me when I read this was an endless hallway when I read it at first. But I had to sit down with it. I had to sit with it for a little bit. And some of you may have already worked it out, and I commend you for that. But when I tried to understand, I had to understand it on a different level. So what does the concept of belonging mean? Belonging meant you negotiate with external groups of people. I dug a little deeper and said, okay, where did she say this? And it turned out she said it during an interview with Bill Moyer. And he asked her, he said, are you saying that you belong to no one? And her response was, I belong to Maya. She found the true belonging in a spiritual practice and that it has a sacredness about it, being a part of something. But as she was saying here, it's also the courage to stand alone. So if you're a part of something, you always feel that risk of being alone, being ostracized. But we're risking that to be alone when we disagree with something because we have opinion about something we love or something that we disagree with. That this is just not my belief. So what she was saying, the mark of true belonging is when you're only free when you realize you belong no place. You belong every place. No place at all. That price is high and the reward is great. So she had taken and she transcended the fear of feeling like she didn't belong. And Brene Brown, the author Brene Brown says to be able to say, yes, I'm a part of something bigger, but I also stand alone when I need to. You belong everywhere and nowhere. And that is liberation. And I love that because it really got me thinking. So what happens when you're in this hallway and then something horrific happens? And I saw that with Deb DeLisi. I've met Deb several times at the Cryon conferences. As I followed Lee Carroll around the country, she's part of the group and she's an amazing artist. In Deb's life, she entered a hallway more than a decade ago when her college-age daughter committed suicide. Deb didn't see it coming. And suicide often brings some of the darkest hallways because you don't know why it happened. And she was just in so much pain. The hallway was horrific. And then she went inside. And then she started feeling the artist coming out in her. And she started creating these stones. And we did this practice years ago, about a decade ago at Unity Radiant Light, is we decorated stones and we wrote a note with them that said to tell someone, you know what, you may be having a hard time right now, but you are loved. And these stones are all around the country and the world because she took that pain that she was in and she felt that journey. It's not that she did a bypass, she felt that journey, but she channeled it into these stones and into this project that has helped. She'll never know how many lives that have been saved or helped through this. When someone going through the worst moment. May sit down like what happened in Cape Cod. Somebody sat down on a bench, looked down, saw something in a baggie, found a stone and a note telling that person, "You're loved. You're okay." And that was the day the person who was reading it, was diagnosed with cancer. So when we can take that and we can move into the internal and not bypass it by doing something else, but channel it, we start channeling it back out with maybe creativity or whatever that you feel is yours to do, that you're inspired to do. That's where the change happens. So her hallway, it's never going to be her daughter's. She's never is never going to be here in her lifetime again. But she felt better. She felt good. I've seen her speak about this many times as people started following this and started doing this. It's amazing. So as we come to a close this week, welcome to the hallway. You may not be in one right now, but hopefully you have a better understanding of what that hallway is. And as we journey through this together, we're never alone. Go internally and know that you are loved beyond measure. And you are never alone in that hallway. Even if the room appears to be empty, it never is. God bless you. And we just take a moment now, prepare for meditation, and we say our meditation affirmation together. I am open and receptive to the spirit of truth, healing in me what needs to be healed, and revealing to me what needs to be revealed. I just invite you to close your eyes, to sit back. And as we begin to go deeper, we may feel anxiety, we may feel parts of that hallway, that discomfort that we have. We're just going to breathe into it. As we breathe in, we're just going to breathe out calm, love. And it's okay for you to sit in the hallway for a moment, for a while, as long as you need to. As you're going through this experience, you are honored. So as we breathe into these experiences, I just invite you to breathe, allow that calm. And if you notice the calm doesn't go to the head, it's in the heart center. Just allow that calmness to seep through you. And wherever you are in your hallway, just invite you to feel that hug right now, that love for the guides, the masters. God is love. And you are cocooned in it. You feel it right now. And as we move into the silence, I just invite you to sit in the cocoon and just relax. No worries, no judgments, just this clearing in the silence, in this substance that we call love.